Welcome to episode 6 of Brilliant Persuasion. I am Stephen Young, the author of Brilliant Persuasion, and today we're going to explore a subtle and extremely powerful technique known as awareness patterns. This is one of those communication tools that's deceptively simple. It's not about learning complicated theories or memorizing scripts you'll never use. In fact, it works best with the everyday words you already know, just used deliberately and strategically to purposefully guide someone's attention, reduce resistance, and help them absorb your ideas in a way that feels natural for them, and of course leads them step by step closer to your objective. What are awareness patterns? At their heart, awareness patterns are all about guiding someone's attention. Instead of telling people directly what to do or what to think, something that often leads to pushback, you invite them to notice, see, realize, experience, or become aware of the very idea you want them to accept. Imagine it this way. When you use awareness language, you're not making a demand on anyone. Instead, you're inviting them to make a discovery. This is a subtle but crucial difference in persuasion. Because when people feel they're discovering something for themselves, they're far more likely to believe it, remember it, and act on it. This works so well because of the way our minds process language. When you say something like, "Notice how effective this is," firstly, you're presupposing that what you're talking about is effective. The person listening isn't likely to argue with you in that moment. Instead, they're nudged to look for evidence that confirms it. They absolutely don't think, "Wait, is this really effective?" Instead, their brain automatically starts scanning for why it might be. Now you can see and understand, and I hope you're getting a feel for how this approach bypasses resistance. It reduces the likelihood that someone will push back or say, "No, I don't think so." Instead, you're gently steering their focus of attention precisely to what you want them to consider, think about, or imagine. Let's review that last paragraph for a moment. Let's take a different perspective on it. Very few people will admit to not noticing something, being unaware of something, or not realizing the potential of something. For example, how often have you heard someone say to a reasonable statement, "Hang on, I didn't notice that," or "No, I can't see the potential here of how this might help me, my company, my sales target, or my goals and objectives"? People in general don't admit to what they don't know or are unaware of. It's human nature that we don't want to appear to others that we haven't noticed something. So most people will look for the advantages and benefits and then imagine them. Awareness patterns consist of words that represent the common vocabulary related to awareness. These are terms frequently used in daily conversations that can significantly influence the thinking patterns of others when employed intentionally. It's essential to recognize that most individuals, except for those who are informed, remain unaware of the profound impact these words can have on others. The beauty of awareness patterns is that they don't rely on fancy words or complicated theories. We're talking about the everyday vocabulary of awareness, words you already use naturally in conversation. Words like notice, see, realize, become aware, experience, discover, and there are plenty more you can use just as easily. Think about words like understand, know, learn, remember, recognize, observe, hear, feel, sense, watch, and listen. Even simple phrases like "you might notice," "you may find," or "you'll see." Have you realized that these words are gentle invitations? Instead of telling someone what to think, you're helping them notice it for themselves. That's what makes them so effective. The thing is, instead of dropping them randomly into conversation, you must use them with purpose. You're planting them like seeds, guiding the other person's attention precisely to where you want it to go, towards accepting your objective. What's truly powerful about awareness patterns is that they're not limited to sales or business. You can use them anywhere you want to guide someone's thoughts, focus, or emotional state. If you're in sales, you might say, "Notice how easily this solution fits your needs." If you're a coach or therapist, you might use, "Become aware of how you're feeling right now." As a parent, you might say, "See how your sister feels when you share." In teaching, you might suggest to pupils, "Notice the pattern in this problem." And as a leader or manager, you might say, "Realize how your contribution is vital to the team." These are gentle ways to embed your message without confrontation. Our aim as brilliant persuaders is to make suggestions feel like discoveries. Here's the real magic. When you use awareness patterns, you transform your message from a command into an invitation to explore. It's the difference between telling someone what to do and leading them to see the benefit themselves. Instead of instructing, you're helping them discover. Instead of demanding, you're suggesting. And suggestions are more straightforward to accept. This is particularly important when you're trying to introduce new ideas, sell a solution, encourage behavioral change, or even avoid an argument. Let's make this practical and put this into practice right now. Please consider how these patterns affect the tone of your message. Consider these simple examples. Instead of saying, "You should relax," you could say, "Notice how your breathing is already slowing down." Instead of saying, "Our service is faster," try, "Notice how much faster our service is." You're not ordering, you're drawing attention. People don't feel controlled because they think they're discovering. Let's do a quick exercise together. I'll say some typical plain statements. Your job is to rephrase them using an awareness pattern mentally. Ready? Here goes. "Our new software is easy to use." How would you rephrase this? Here's the next one. "You should calm down." What awareness word will soften this? Did you find it? Here's the next one. This method saves you time. What did you say to guide your listener to discover this for themselves? When you start to use awareness patterns, you'll discover how rarely you have to sell your ideas because you frame your presentations so that others can discover them themselves. And the more you practice using the vocabulary of awareness, you'll start to notice how easy they are to use. Now, let's move a step further. This time, I want you to think about your real-world context. This could be selling a product or service, but it could just as easily be parenting, teaching, coaching, therapy, leadership, customer service, any situation where you want someone to see things your way without pushing them. For a bit of practice, next, I'm going to say some classic awareness question openers, sometimes called weasel phrases or stems. Your task is to finish each question in a way that plants the knowledge you want your client or subject to accept without them questioning it. This may be work-related or socially. Here are the stems. Have you noticed? Can you see? Have you realized? Have you already realized? Did you realize? Are you aware? Have you ever experienced? These next ones are a little pushy, so use them cautiously. Most people at this point are aware that you've probably already noticed. Most people do that. I can tell you've realized that. For example, in sales, you might say, "Have you noticed how much easier this will make your day?" Or in parenting, "Do you realize how happy your dad will be when you finish your homework?" Or coaching, "Have you ever experienced a time when you felt this confident?" These are powerful because the questions presuppose that the benefit or realization is already true, or is at least worth exploring. It gently nudges the person toward your intended thought, while still giving them the sense of autonomy. Why this works. Here's a recap. Before we finish up, By proactively employing awareness vocabulary, you're intentionally directing an individual's attention. This approach encourages your audience to observe, recognize, experience, or perceive precisely what you intend them to notice. Everything you say after the awareness word is treated as if it's true, because you're suggesting they should have noticed it already. Most people won't challenge that assumption. They'll start looking for reasons to accept it rather than rejecting it. If they haven't noticed or realized it, they're unlikely to argue. They'll often stay quiet and still process the idea anyway. And that's the magic, because in that way, you've already planted the seed of your message. This approach doesn't just work in sales, it's universal. Use it to embed suggestions, bypass resistance, increase responsiveness, and deliver ideas that people will accept, because they think they discovered them. Final words. Awareness patterns aren't about tricking people. They're about communicating better. They help you move from giving sales talk to inviting discovery. They reduce friction. They encourage people to think about what you want them to think about without even realizing they're doing it. So my invitation to you is simple. Notice when you're selling something, instructing someone, or debating a crucial point. See if you can guide attention instead and realize how much more persuasive you'll be. Persuasion isn't a trick, it's a skill. And the more you realize this, the more powerful you'll become. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep getting brilliant at persuasion. And if you'd like to delve deeper, my book, Brilliant Persuasion, is available on Amazon. Inside, you'll find even more powerful techniques, some of which, when first discovered, were considered too dangerous for release to the general public. Believe me, they are being used on you every single day. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.